Welcome back to Coding 1. Missed seeing you guys in person. Hopefully we'll be back to normal next week. We will let you know in an email. Hopefully as well, if you were able to follow along with the tutorial, the platforming tutorial that I sent to you guys on Tuesday. If not, don't worry. These activities are optional. Just because I know that not everybody has laptops at home, but I really encourage you guys to follow along. Today we're going to be making a temple run game. We're going to be practicing using a coding principle called loops. Loops are very useful, and you actually probably use some of them if you followed along with Tuesday's video, the platformer. But we're mainly focusing on if statements, if conditions. So if the user is touching the platform, then they don't want to move down anymore. But today we're going to be within Temple Run kind of style, we're going to be using all the various different loops that are available to us within Scratch. So this is kind of the style of game that we're making. It's obviously not as pretty as the phone version of the game. I'm just going to click play. This is one that someone else has made, and we're not going to make it as complex as this person did, but we will include the main principles of Temple Run in our game. So I'm just going to click play. So he has some music on his. You guys probably can't hear that necessarily. And I can click start, and then I can press up to jump over the obstacles. Every time I hit an obstacle, the gorilla gets a little bit closer, or whatever it is. And some obstacles I have to duck underneath, and I'm sure we're going to make it to one. There you go. And if I don't do it, then the gorilla eats me. So that's what we're going to be working on, something like that today. So I want you guys to come over to Scratch. And the way that I found that, by the way, guys, I didn't know if I've told you this yet, is that you can actually, from the Scratch homepage, explore other programs or applications that other people have made. And you can also search applications. And we, as APS, have a studio. So if you type in APS Studio and hit enter, and then you want to make sure that you have selected studios and not projects, you will find our studio, and it is our logo, the lion. Click on APS Studio, and then everything that I make on Scratch, the bigger projects, I upload into the studio. And we also have student content in here as well. So we have 2 of mine and 2 students as well that have uploaded to the APS Studio. You guys are more than welcome to follow the APS Studio and add your own projects so that all of the students can see. So I'd actually encourage you at the end of today, once you've finished your Temple Run game, to add it to the APS Studio. For now, we're just going to click Create, come to a blank Scratch project editor. By the way, if you just have one device and you're following along, I recommend kind of putting your windows side by side. So if you have YouTube open in one tab, what I recommend you guys doing is kind of having YouTube on one side, like this. Oop, where'd it go? Didn't come off. Your own pace. You can also use the speed controls on YouTube to slow me down or speed me up if I'm going too slow. Okay, so hopefully you guys are in your Scratch project. First of all, we're going to choose our character. We're going to use the a repeat loop in order to animate our character. So in my case, I want to use, I don't want to use the Scratchy Cat. I'm going to click on plus. I'm going to search for an existing character. And just because I know that this character is animated nicely already from running, or walking in this case, I'm going to choose Pico Walking. Not a traditional Temple Run character, but here will do. What's cool about Pico is that when I click in his costumes up in the top left here, I can see that he has multiple costumes that make, when switched between, make it look like he is walking, and if you do it fast enough, then it looks like he's running, which is perfect for a temple run game. We're going to be doing this in kind of like a platform, side-on platformer style game. I'm going to resize him a little bit to make him a bit smaller. 75 in the size menu here, and I'm just going to put him, maybe I'll just put him a little bit higher. In the background, we can make our own background, or we can choose a background. I'm just going to draw a simple background, so I'm going to come down to backgrounds, choose a backdrop, and I'm going to paint, and I'm just going to create like kind of sandy colored floor, maybe. It's be like a desert version of Temple Run, and then I need to go to my square tool. I don't want an outline, and let's just draw the floor, kind of like sand. That's cool. Maybe I'll even put it a little bit further up. Great. And then I can move Pico just by dragging him, so he is on the floor. Alright, so we have our backdrop, we have our player. So let's animate our player, and we'll use our first looping tool. So I want to start animating my player when the green flag is pressed. That's what I'm going to use as kind of my start game button. When I press the green flag, it's going to start all the necessary code for my game to run. So when green flag is pressed, now I'm going to use my loop. Loops are in the control palette. I'm going to click on control. And in this case, I think I'm going to use, just to demonstrate how they work, a forever loop. And let's just see what happens when I put an animation and change his costume. So if I come up to looks, I'm going to attach my forever loop to my when green flag clicked. So that means that this code that goes within this kind of sandwiched block will run forever, over and over again. Okay, and what I want to run to kind of make it look animated is the next costume block. So it will forever be switching to the next costume. I'll do it very quickly, almost too quickly, but let's see what happens when I click the green flag. Okay, so you can see he is running for dear life right now. So almost a bit too quickly. So let's slow that down a little bit. Let's come to controls, and let's add a wait block so that he's not running so frantically. And let's put just like a 0.2 second delay between each animation. Okay, that almost looks a little bit too slow now. Not frantic enough for Temple Run. So let's do 0.1. There you go. That's not too bad. He's kind of running now. That's cool. Great. So we've got our forever loop that's animating our character running. Now, there's two kind of things you do in Temple Run. You can either jump or you can duck, and then in a normal 3D version you go from side to side. We're just going to do the up and down. So we need to code our keyboard so that when we press maybe the space bar or the up arrow, our player jumps up, and then when we press, then comes back down, and when we press the down arrow, they duck, and they duck underneath whatever obstacles are coming at them. I'm just going to click stop for now. That's less distracting. And we are going to use another loop, another forever loop actually, that is going to listen for a key being pressed. So I want to listen, start listening as soon as the green flag clicked. You can create multiple green flag clicked events. And all this is just telling the program when to start the code. I could start it when I press the space bar, when I click on Pico, all sorts of different events. And I'm going to drag in another forever loop, because I always want to be listening, constantly want to be listening, forever want to be listening for if a certain key is pressed. So just like last week, we're going to be using our if condition. So if our up arrow is pressed, then we want to animate Pico going up and down. So in order to sense whether a key is pressed, I need to go to the sensing palette on the left here. That's the blue. Maybe I will zoom in a little bit just so that particularly if you guys are viewing it on the side of your screen. That's better. Okay, and right here we have our sensing block for a key being pressed, and we're going to sense if the up arrow key is pressed. I'm just going to put it in this space here. Just move it over so we can see. And I'm going to click on this drop down and we'll do up arrow. Now, if I wanted to do the spacebar as well, what I could use is a logic operator. These are cool because it can add multiple buttons to run the same code. So I could say if the up arrow key is pressed, or I could use my or logic operator, the spacebar key is pressed. And then I put the up arrow key sense there and the space bar key sensing in the other one. So now the code will run whether I press the up arrow or the space bar. And I can put that whole thing in there. So if, and then it's forever checking if the up arrow or the space bar key is pressed. Now at the moment, pressing the space bar, nothing is happening because we don't have any code in here. But we're going to animate motion for Pico. And what we're going to do, what I could do is just kind of make him go up, wait, and come back down. That's just like a traditional jump. Let's just see what that looks like and show you kind of how it doesn't look that great and how we can utilize loops to make it look better. So let's just say change Y by 100. Y up from top to bottom is 500. So if he goes at 100, he's kind of jumping up to here, which is pretty high. And then if I was to just do change Y back down immediately after this, we wouldn't actually see him jump. So if I now do change Y by minus 100, so he'd be going up and then down immediately. And you do it so quickly because code runs so fast that we wouldn't see it. So we actually need to add a wait block in the middle. I'm going to change this in just a second, so you guys don't necessarily need to copy me here. But let's add a little bit of hang time while he's in the air, just like 0.2 seconds. So let's see how this code runs now. So he's running along, and then when I press the space bar, whee! But it's kind of just like, not very, a bit robotic, just up, down, and if I press the space bar, it works. I press the up arrow, it works. So that's cool, it works, but it doesn't look very good. So what we can do is use a repeat, another repeat block, another repeat loop to make our code look a little bit nicer. So I'm going to click stop, and I'm going to take my code out of here. I'm going to come back to controls on the left. I'm going to add a repeat certain amount of times loop. Now this is great for when we're animating a character, whether you're doing a story or a game. The repeat 10 times means that we animate our character in increments. And so what I want it to do 10 times, and I'm actually going to use 2 of them, is to just go up bit by bit. And so rather than just going up and then down in one instant motion, I can go up in little increments and it will make the jump a lot smoother. So rather than doing one jump of 100, I'm going to do 10 jumps of 10 because it's going to repeat this code 10 times. In between, I will keep my little hang time block, my wait block, and then I need to code him to come back down again. And rather than doing 100, I'm going to do 10 tens. So now we can see the difference in the code. It'll be a lot smoother. Aha, perfect. It's a little bit laggy on my screen, a little bit slow maybe, but it's nice and smooth. You actually see his motion rather than just immediately going up and coming back down. That is much nicer, and we're using our repeat X number of times block to do that. You click stop. So we've got our jump and code working. I'm now going to just duplicate this code. So I right-clicked on the green flag and then click duplicate because we're now going to code another button. And we'll probably end up using very similar blocks. But rather than using the down arrow key, or the up arrow key and the spacebar key, we're just going to use the down arrow key. I'm going to bring this out actually, change it to the down arrow so that Pico can duck, and I'm going to bring out my operator because there won't be any alternative key for this. Okay, Now this isn't as simple. I suppose I could just code the opposite. Yeah, that actually works. What I could do is either use a costume and add an alternative costume where Pico's head kind of goes down, and then in the code like change to that. And in fact, let's do that because that just kind of gives a bit more. Yeah, let's make him slide. That would be cool. So let's add a new costume. We'll use, what one would look good for sliding? Yeah, maybe this one. We'll use this one, and I'm going to copy it. Although, you know what? If I do this in his next animation, well, we'll just have to change our running animation because this will be part of the costumes that it use. I want to make him look like he's sliding on the ground. So all I'm going to do, I'm going to convert. Well, can I just click on him? Maybe I can, if I use my select tool, drag over the top, and then to slide, I'm going to rotate him. Now his head is really big, so doesn't really give him much clearance, but to go underneath something, but that kind of looks like he's sliding like that. So let's see, comparing that to that. Let's make him go down a little bit further because he's not on the ground. As you can see, I need him to be on the ground, and it updates. Okay, that's good. Maybe I'll just sink him a little bit further. Cool, now it looks like he's sliding. And that will be my sliding or ducking costume. That's cool. But as I said, the trouble with this one, because that is now part of the costumes, when I'm doing my running animation, I go to the next costume. One of those costumes is going to be a slide animation. So let's see what that looks like. Yeah, so he's like he's tripping over while he's running. So that doesn't really work. But instead of just going to the next costume, we are going to tell it to go to a specific costume. And maybe we can get rid of the wait 0.1 second now. So rather than using the next costume, we are going to switch to costume 1, then switch to costume 2, switch to costume 3, and switch to costume 4. And I'm leaving out the last costume because that's his slide costume, and maybe to make that a bit more obvious, I can go to costumes, and rather than calling it Pico Walk 5, I can change the name of the costume to Picoslide. And I could also animate this in increments if I wanted to kind of look like he was kind of partly down and then all the way down. I could have Picoslide 1 and Picoslide 2, just like there's Pico Walk 1, Pico Walk 2, 3, and 4. So I've changed the name to Picoslide. So hopefully, rather than falling over when I click the go button now, he should animate. Okay, so that's not working. He's not moving at all. And I think this is because he's switching too quickly. We're not seeing it happen. So maybe in between each of these, we need to add a wait block. So I'm going to go to my control blocks, and in between each, I'm going to add a 0.1 second wait block. Okay, so we're already using 2 types of repeat loop. We have our forever loop and our repeat X number of times loop. Okay, let's hit play. Okay, great. Now he's running nice and briskly. He's not tripping over. It's all working good. Let's hit the space bar. And yeah, although it's a bit laggy, he's going up and coming down. So now I need to code my down arrow. So as I said, I could do the opposite of jumping. That would be one way of doing it. Let's just show you how easy that would be. All I would do is swap my going down and my going up, because with a slide you go down first and then you come back up. So I put this one underneath. Put my weight block in between. But this kind of looked like this would kind of look like he was going underground. So if I press the down key, he kind of goes underground, and maybe it looks like he's kind of like walking to the side, and that's okay. So if we were perhaps wanting to make this look 3D, this could be one way we do it, and we could go kind of dodge to the right, and then we could code like that, and it looks like he's dodging to the left, and we increase our floor space. That would be one way of doing it. But instead, we're going to use costumes. So we are going to just take out all of this code, and we're going to go to looks and switch costume to Picoslide. Now we do need it to also then switch back, but okay, this works well. Okay, cool. But so because by default this animation is running, this this code will overwrite it, but when it's not being pressed, it will just go back to walking. So this works perfectly. So when I'm now pressing the down arrow, he's sliding, and then when I let go, so I can kind of control how long he's down for, which is brilliant. You can make him constantly slide. Okay, so we've kind of got our buttons configured. Now we need to make some obstacles. I'm going to use some more repeat X number of time loops. So let's make an obstacle. So let's choose a sprite. What obstacles could there be? Maybe we'll just draw the obstacles. Yeah, because I don't think there's very good ones in here. Maybe in fantasy. I suppose there's lightning bolts in Temple Run. It's more like fire and things he has to jump over, like boxes and stuff. Maybe let's just do boxes and tree branches or something like that. I suppose we're in the desert, but oh well. So let's draw. Nope, need to go back. So to draw, I just hover over the new sprite and then click paint. It takes me to the create my own costume window. This I'm just going to draw a simple box. If I hold the shift, then it will keep it as a nice square box. I'm going to change the fill color to brown. Maybe brown, maybe in the orange section. Brown is a difficult color to achieve. There it is. Cool. So it's like a box. Brilliant. Maybe we can give it an outline. Make it nice and thick. Cool. Change the color to brown. Great. Kind of, yeah, that looks like a box. Perfect. Now that is way too big. He'll never be able to jump over that. Let me just stop the code from running. So I'm going to change the size. Let's just make it 25%. Okay, cool. That looks a little bit more easy to clear. Let's just test. So I'm going to hit play, hit the space bar. Okay, so he really clears that. Maybe too much. So maybe we can make it a little bit bigger. Let's make it 50. Let's see if he can clear that. Yep, just about. Maybe not enough. So that's all part of it. Let's make it 30, and that should be good. Cool. Yeah, he can definitely clear that. Cool. So I'm going to start my obstacle. I'm going to move it over here first. And what we want them to do is the obstacles to kind of randomly come at Pico for him to deal with. So I'm going to go to the code, and I'm going to use a repeat a certain number of times block again to code the motion of the block left. And it will kind of appear as if he's running and the box is kind of just coming towards him, as opposed to it being fired towards him, and that the box is on the ground, kind of like a perspective trick. So we want this to start when the green flag is clicked. We're going to do motion. This time we're changing the X direction. And we want it to come left, so it's on -10. So let's see what happens right now when I do this. I'm going to just click that. I can actually force this code to run by clicking it. Okay, so I want it to kind of move across the whole screen. So it looks like repeating 10 times is not going to be enough. So, but I like the speed that it was going. So I'm going to have it repeat. Let's see what happens, maybe 50 times. And that would make sense because this is 500 pixels. So if it do 50 minus 10s, that would be minus 500. Should go across the whole screen. Great, slides across the whole screen towards Pico. And hopefully he'll be able to jump like that. Perfect. And click it again. Okay, so I now need for it to come back to the beginning once it's done that. So I'm going to come down to Go To, and then within the box sprite, and I'm going to manually bring it back to get the coordinates. Oops. Okay, so the coordinates are, it's kind of floating a little bit, 211 and minus 51. That's where I want him to come back. So I got that from just down here, 211 and minus 51. I put that in here, so then every time it will reset back to that point. So now when I run this code, we now have a constant, hopefully, oh no, okay. So this is all just happens once. The repeat happens once, but we want it to be a constant supply of boxes. So what we'll do, for now, we'll just use a forever block so they keep coming at him, but to finish this off, we will use a repeat until block to repeat until it gets hit, basically. So let's hit go. Okay, so the boxes are coming. It's great. We've got a nice constant supply of boxes for Pico to jump over. That's great. And that's just going to go on forever because we've nested that code in a forever loop. If he slides, doesn't really benefit him in any way. He just slams right into the box. That's cool. Great. So we've got our kind of ground obstacle. Now we need an obstacle for him to slide underneath. So let's find, let's see if there's a cactus because we're in the desert. No cactuses. That's sad. Maybe a tree. Okay, that will have to do. Let's grab our tree sprite and let's come into the costumes of the tree, because why would you slide under a tree unless there's a big old branch sticking out of the tree that you had to slide underneath. The tree's gonna whack you. That makes sense. Let's just test. When he's sliding, he goes underneath, so I'm going to put him over here for now. And switch to the sliding. Okay, the branch is too high. Come back into costumes. You know what? I've just thought of a flaw with my code. The reason is, well, that could actually work. No, we could make this work. Okay, cool. So he's currently hitting that branch. And I've made this branch a different color from the tree trunk because in order to sense whether he's hit the tree, I want to measure whether he's hit this branch color. And so we're going to use the touching color sensing in order to achieve that. So let's use the duck. Okay, great. So he clears underneath the branch. That's great. So that is our vertical, a higher obstacle sprite. And what's really cool, because we already have the code written for this, I can just copy that by dragging it to our tree, and it will, when I come over to the tree, it will have the same code as well. So now they'll be coming together. Now they're coming at the same time. It's kind of impossible to avoid them, and because the tree is going to the same position as the box, it's centered, so it's kind of down a little bit. So we need to change our code a little bit, and we do need to randomize it so they're coming at different rates. So this new one will be 212 and minus 4. 212 and minus 4. So let's see if that works a little bit better. Cool. So yeah, so they're still coming. Oh, look, I can dolphin dive. Whee! That's funny. Cool. So now we need to make them come at different rates. And in order to do that, I am just going to add a wait block to the start. So I believe, so if I make this a strange number, maybe I make it 0.5, or let's see if that changes things. Okay, kind of random. They're kind of coming too close together still. That's not going to work. So let's just make them kind of alternate. So I'll move this block out, put this back in, and I'm just going to wait half a second before this code starts, but then it will go into the loop. So the box will start first and then the tree. Okay, maybe wait a little bit longer because that gap is not big enough. Let's do 1 second. It should go box tree, box tree. Alright, already the new professional at this game. Perfect. Alright. So we've got our obstacles coming in. So now all I need to do is to basically make the I could do a score, but we're not going to do that this week. But essentially the score in this game would work as long as you can survive. Just keep adding the number to the score, and it would kind of be like distance traveled. So as long as Pico is avoiding the obstacles, keep adding 1 to the distance traveled, and then you could store that as a high score perhaps. But we're going to just use a repeat until so that the game stops when Pico hits something. So we're going to go back to Pico's code, and we are now going to use a repeat until loop. This is the last of all the loops. You have to scroll down a little bit to get to it. Repeat until. And essentially, we want all of this code to run until the game ends. So we're actually going to replace some of our forever loops with repeat until loops. But we need to make an event to happen when Pico hits something. So we need to constantly check if Pico is hitting either the tree branch or the box. So I'm going to use a forever loop, but we'll put the repeat until to the side for now. So while the game is running, we're going to check if Pico is touching. So I'm going to go, we're in Pico already. So if he is touching the box, and that is sprite 1. Maybe I should have renamed the sprite to box. Come back to the code, automatically updated that. So if it's touching the box, or if he touches the tree branch. So rather than using touching a sprite, because he would technically be touching the tree even if he slid underneath it, we're going to use touching color. So we're going to use our logic operator again, use our OR operator. So if he touches the box or he touches the tree branch, come back to sensing. If he's touching the color, that is the tree branch. So drag that in, click on the color, and then we're going to use the drop tool, the eyedropper tool, to select the tree branch color. So that is now just storing that specific color And hopefully that's different to all the other colors. So it will only ping the code, recognize that he's touched the tree branch if he touches the branch and nothing else. Because the sand is a different color, the branches, the trunk is a different color too. Okay. We're now going to make a variable. We're going to make a Boolean variable. Remember that was like an on or an off variable or a true or a false variable. And we're going to call it game over. We're going to set it for all sprites. And we're going to come just to kind of make like a set the additional conditions of our variables. Making a new when green flag clicked. So that at the start of the game, we're going to make sure game over is false because game is not over yet. It's only just started. Come down to variables, and we'll use the set variable block to set game over equal to false. At the moment it's 0, but when I click the green flag, false. Game is not over until Pico hits something. When Pico does hit something, so if he's touching the box or touching the color, I want to set game over to true. So I can now tell the program, my application, that Pico has hit something and game over equals true. This is where my repeat until block comes in. I basically want to only animate Pico's running and the trees and the boxes coming until the game is over. So I'm going to swap out my forever loop here for my animation. I'm going to put all that animation in a repeat until loop. Get rid of my forever loop. And the condition that it will repeat until is until game is over. So I need another, this time another operator. This time we need an arithmetic operator or a math operator to compare what two values equal. So I'm going to get my equals operator, repeat until my game over variable equals true. So as long as the game over does not equal true, because it's repeating until it equals true, then this code will run and loop. But as soon as game over equals true, it will stop because it's running until game over equals true. And game over equals true when you hit something. So we're going to do this again for our box and our trees. So he'll stop running, and we'll also stop the boxes and trees coming. So we're going to replace our forever loop with a repeat until loop. Let's just create the repeat until separate so that we can copy and paste it into the different obstacles. Repeat until, and we're going to use operator, equals operator. And testing the game over variable. Repeat until game over equals true. That's the kind of condition, and we're going to copy this code to our tree just by dragging it over the top. There you go. And then I'm going to drag this code to my repeat until. My boxes will only be flying until game over. I'll do the same thing for the tree. Drag this code in, get rid of my forever loop, use my repeat until loop. So repeat until works to repeat until something happens, i.e. game over. Forever just goes forever. I don't think I have any forever loops now. Okay, so that's really useful for like checking if a user presses the key. So because I'm using a forever here, it will forever check if the key is pressed. So even when the game is over, he'll still be able to jump and duck, but that's okay. And then the repeat X number of times loop is really useful for kind of animation to make it not so boxy and kind of robotic, but more smooth. So let's play our game and see if it works. I don't know how long it'll last for. Oh, game over already equals true because he already hit one of the things. That's not good. Let's try again. So game over is false and true. Okay, this game is way too difficult because it just come immediately at him. Okay, so how can I make the game more easy? Well, maybe let's just turn off our tree for now. And we'll just have the boxes. Okay. Okay, why is he lying down? That shouldn't be right. It's repeating until game over equals true. And when the aha. So, oh, but we set game over equals false here, so that should work. Okay, so on the game setup, we need to make sure that Pico is in his regular position, I suppose. P until game equals true. Set when I click set game over equals false. Changes looks. Just set it to costume 1. Just not sure why he's constantly sliding. Gosh. Dang, I'm not very good at my game, but in theory it works. Aha! Okay, nope, I hit the box. Okay, I'm kind of cheating now because he is floating, but it's working. If I duck, it's good. Jump. Okay, so this is my issue, is that he's not coming back up again. Switch costume to Picoslide. So it appears, because I switched my animation to a repeat until, it's kind of stopping this animation. So I really should use a forever loop. So maybe I could nest a forever loop inside. You can do loops within loops. See if that fixes that. And let's just move him out of the way here. So definitely, okay, cool. And then we slide, and he's walking again, and he's jumping, he's sliding. Great. Okay, this is kind of working. Let's put him back down on the ground. And good. Oh, game over already. Okay. All right. Here we go. Here we go. Okay, so he's not running anymore. So it seems, and maybe I need to put a slight delay. It's because when I lose the game, it's changing it to true, and I think this code isn't running because briefly game over is true still because it hasn't had a chance to reset it yet. This should solve that. Well, game over is already true. Okay, well, we've got some functionality here. Hopefully this is enough to get you guys going. As I said, you could make it 3D by kind of adding left and right dodging as well. But hopefully you enjoyed that, learning a little bit about repeat loops. When we're back in person, we'll look at how we do repeat loops in Python. So yeah, as I said before, I'm going to upload my Temple Run game. Maybe I won't because it's a bit buggy. But if you guys make a better Temple Run game than me, then definitely name it, save it, and then come on over to APS Studio, follow APS Studio, and then upload your project so that I can see all the cool things that you have done. All right, hopefully I will see you all next week. Have a great weekend. See you soon.